Here's the thing about coming home early. It's either a blessing or a curse, and there's no in between. Apparently, mine was the listen to your husband plan your replacement like he's ordering a new car variety. Fun times. My name is Thea Ramsey. I'm 36, a corporate tax attorney in downtown Chicago, and I just discovered that my marriage was basically a limited-time offer with an expiration date I wasn't aware of. My husband, Barrett, is 39, real estate developer, CrossFit enthusiast, and part-time Judas, apparently. We'd been married for 8 years. No kids by mutual agreement, or so I thought. Turns out, it was just his agreement. The dude wanted flexibility for other ventures. It was a Wednesday in mid-October. I left the office at 2 p.m. because our biggest client decided to reschedule at the last minute. Classic. I figured I'd surprise Barrett. Maybe we'd catch an early dinner downtown. The universe really loves its irony, doesn't it? I parked in our driveway. Yeah, we live in one of those renovated brownstones in Lincoln Park that screams, "We're doing well, but not that well," and let myself in quietly. Force of habit. Barrett was always on conference calls, and I'd learned to move through our house like a ninja to avoid the death glare he'd throw when I interrupted his important business discussions. That's when I heard him. In his office. Door half closed, voice low but urgent. The kind of tone that makes your gut clench before your brain catches up. I need to end this before she figures it out. The timing's crucial here. Pause. I know. But if she finds out first, I'm screwed in the settlement. Her salary's almost double mine, and she's got documentation on everything. I stood there in our marble foyer, the one I'd insisted on during renovations because I'm apparently excellent at making sure my betrayal happens in aesthetically pleasing surroundings, feeling my blood pressure spike like I'd just downed 4 espressos. Barrett continued, oblivious. Sienna's already looking at apartments for us. Found a great place in River North. 2 bedrooms, modern kitchen, close to her studio. Yeah, the kid would have his own room. The kid. I'm sorry, what? Barrett. Kids ruin careers and we're focusing on us. Ramsey had a kid? With someone named Sienna, who apparently had a studio, whatever that meant. My brain was doing that thing where it processes information approximately 3 beats behind reality. Like when you're watching a movie and the sound doesn't sync with the video. Except this was my life. And the audio was, "Your husband has a secret family." And the video was me standing in my own house, feeling like I'd wandered onto someone else's disaster. Barrett walked out of his office scrolling through his phone, and when he looked up and saw me, the man literally flinched. His phone almost went airborne. He actually stumbled backward, grabbed the doorframe, and went full statue mode. If deer in headlights was a person, he'd just won the championship. Thea. His voice came out strangled. "You're home. Give this man a medal for stating the obvious." I just stood there with my briefcase, my sensible work pumps, and my apparently non-existent marriage, staring at him. I could have said a million things. Screamed, thrown something, demanded answers. Instead, I smiled. That same smile I use when opposing counsel thinks they've found a loophole in my client's taxes, and I'm about to demolish their entire argument with a single precedent. "Yep," I said, voice honey-sweet. "Surprise." Barrett's face went through about 15 emotions in 3 seconds. Panic, guilt, calculation, more panic. Then he tried for casual, which was like watching someone try to act natural while their pants are on fire. How long have you been standing there?" "Long enough?" I walked past him toward the kitchen, set my briefcase on the counter. "Long enough to hear about Sienna's excellent taste in River North apartments. And about the kid. Congratulations, by the way. When were you planning to mention your son? At Thanksgiving? Christmas? Our 10-year anniversary?" See? Here's what happens when you're a lawyer. You don't fall apart immediately. You compartmentalize. You file the emotional devastation under deal with later, and you focus on information gathering. It's a superpower, really. A deeply unhealthy superpower that leads to stress eating and wine overconsumption. But still. Barrett opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. He looked like a very guilty, very panicked fish. "Thea, I can explain." "Oh, I'm counting on it." I poured myself a glass of water because my hands needed something to do that wasn't strangling him. But before you start, let me save us both some time. Don't insult me by saying it's not what it sounds like. Don't tell me you were going to tell me. And definitely don't say this just happened, because kids take approximately 9 months plus however old this one is, so the math doesn't work in your favor. He slumped against the counter. For a second, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Then I remembered the whole secret child thing and the feeling evaporated faster than my respect for him. His name is Oliver, Barrett said quietly. He's 3. Sienna's a yoga instructor. We met at the gym 4 years ago. 4 years. 4 years. This man had been running a parallel life for 4 years, and I hadn't noticed. How was that possible? How do you not notice your husband has a whole entire child for 3 years? Then again, I worked 60-hour weeks. Barrett traveled constantly for property acquisitions. We were that couple who scheduled sex like business meetings and called it keeping the spark alive. We hadn't really seen each other in probably 2 years. We'd just been existing in the same space. God, we were such a cliché. You have a 3-year-old son, I repeated, because saying it out loud might make it feel real. Spoiler, it didn't. And you were planning to leave me for his mother, but you wanted to time it right for, what, tax purposes? Optimal settlement positioning? Barrett had the audacity to look offended. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Barrett? Explain it to me. Use small words if you need to. He ran his hand through his hair. That nervous tic he'd always had when he was in trouble. I'd seen it when he forgot our anniversary, when he made a bad investment, when he backed into my car in the driveway. Never thought I'd see it during the "I've been living a double life" conversation, but here we were. I didn't plan this, he started, which was already a terrible beginning. Sienna and I, it was supposed to be casual. Then she got pregnant, and she wanted to keep the baby. And I couldn't just abandon my kid. But you could abandon your wife? I thought I could handle both. Keep everyone happy. But it got complicated. Complicated, I echoed. You think it got complicated? Barrett, you have a secret child. You've been lying to me for 4 years. You've been planning to divorce me based on timing that benefits your financial situation. That's not complicated. That's calculated. He had nothing to say to that. Smart choice. I took a sip of water, buying myself time to think. My brain was simultaneously exploding and working overtime. The attorney part of me was already cataloging evidence, thinking about Illinois divorce law, considering asset division. The wife part of me, the part that still wore the wedding ring he'd put on my finger in that beautiful ceremony in Napa, was crumbling in real time. Here's what's going to happen, I said, voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. You're going to sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow, you're going to move to a hotel. And you're not going to touch any of our joint accounts, transfer any assets, or make any major purchases until I figure out what the hell I'm dealing with. Thea? No. I held up my hand. You don't get to Thea me right now. You had 4 years to Thea me, to tell me the truth, to give me the option to choose whether I wanted to stay in this marriage. You took that choice away from me, so now I'm taking the choices back. Got it? He nodded, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Good. He should feel small. He'd just revealed himself to be exactly that. I grabbed my briefcase and headed upstairs to our bedroom. My bedroom now, I guess. Behind me, I heard Barrett still standing in the kitchen, probably calculating his next move. Always calculating, that one. Inside the bedroom, I locked the door, set down my briefcase, and sat on the edge of our California king bed. The one we'd picked out together 3 years ago. The one where we'd talked about our future, made plans, had lazy Sunday mornings before reality and work schedules took over. And then, finally, alone in the silence, I let myself feel it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the rage, all of it crashed over me like Lake Michigan during a storm. But here's the thing about being a tax attorney. I'm really, really good at finding loopholes, exploiting weaknesses, and building airtight cases. Barrett had just handed me the biggest case of my career. He wanted a strategic exit? Fine. I'd show him strategic. I'd show him exactly what happens when you underestimate a woman who spent 3 years of law school learning how to destroy people's arguments and 10 years in practice perfecting it. I pulled out my laptop. Time to do what I do best. Research, document, and prepare for total war. Because if Barrett thought he was good at timing, he was about to learn that I'd been counting down to his downfall from the moment I heard him say, "Before she figures it out." "Joke's on you, honey. She figured it out." The next 3 days were a masterclass in acting normal while internally planning the legal equivalent of a nuclear strike. Barrett moved to a hotel Thursday morning, the Embassy Suites downtown, which felt appropriate since our marriage had apparently been operating on diplomatic relations for years. He tried to talk to me before he left. Stood there in our foyer with his hastily packed suitcase, looking like a sad puppy who'd been caught eating the trash. "Thea, can we just—" No. I didn't even look up from my coffee. I was doing the crossword puzzle like my entire life hadn't imploded. Multitasking. "I want you to know I never meant to hurt you." I finally looked at him then. "Barrett, you had a child with another woman and hid it from me for 3 years. Your intent is irrelevant. Your actions are what count. And your actions are telling me you're a liar, a cheat, and apparently not great at operational security, considering I found out by coming home early on a random Wednesday." He flinched. "Good. What are you going to do? Get a divorce, obviously. Beyond that, you'll find out when I'm ready for you to find out. Now, if you'll excuse me, 7 down is really bothering me." He left. I finished my crossword. Then I called my best friend Juliet, who's a family law attorney at one of the top firms in Chicago. If I was going to burn Barrett's life down, I was going to do it legally and thoroughly. "So," Jules said, when I'd finished explaining everything over the phone, "Barrett has a secret 3-year-old named Oliver with a yoga instructor named Sienna. He was planning to leave you but wanted strategic timing for the divorce settlement, and you found out because you came home early from work. That's the Cliff's Notes version, yeah. Thea, this is the most dramatic thing that's happened to you since you accidentally wore 2 different shoes to court. In my defense, they were both black. One was a pump, one was a flat. Not the point, Jules." She laughed, but then her voice turned serious. "Okay, here's what we're doing. I'm recommending you to my colleague Marcus Bennett. He's the best divorce attorney in Chicago, and he's absolutely ruthless in a way that I think you'll appreciate right now. He'll destroy Barrett, legally speaking. I like the sound of that. Also, we need to lock down all your financials. You said Barrett's a developer? Yeah, mostly commercial properties. He's got a few projects going right now. Then he's probably got assets you don't even know about. We need a forensic accountant. I'll recommend someone. But Thea, this is going to get messy. Are you ready for that?" I thought about Barrett's face when he realized I'd heard everything. The way he'd tried to calculate his way out of it. The fact that he'd built an entire secret life and thought he could just discard me when it was convenient. "Jules, I've been ready since Wednesday at 2:17 p.m. Marcus Bennett's office was exactly what you'd expect from Chicago's most notorious divorce attorney. Sleek, modern, with a view of the Chicago River that probably cost more per month than most people's mortgages. The man himself was in his mid-50s, silver hair, sharp suit, and eyes that said he'd seen every terrible thing a spouse could do and was no longer surprised by human depravity. I liked him immediately. "Mrs. Ramsey," he said, shaking my hand, "Jules speaks highly of you. Says you're a tax attorney? Corporate tax litigation? Yes. Then you understand that divorce is war by other means." He gestured for me to sit. "Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out, no matter how small or embarrassing you think it is." I told him. All of it. The phone call I'd overheard, the 3-year-old son, Sienna the yoga instructor, the River North apartment, Barrett's strategic timing. When I finished, Marcus was making notes on his legal pad, nodding occasionally. "Okay," he said finally. "Here's the good news. Your husband is an idiot. The bad news for him, anyway. Good news for you. He's been planning this divorce, which means there's a trail. Texts, emails, financial transactions. He's been sloppy because he didn't think you'd find out yet." "How do you know he's been sloppy?" Marcus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Because if he'd been smart, he would have already moved assets, changed passwords, destroyed evidence. The fact that you still have access to joint accounts tells me he hasn't started his endgame yet. He was planning to, but you caught him early. That's leverage. What kind of leverage? The kind that means we get to dictate terms. But first, we need to gather evidence. Everything. I'm going to have you work with a forensic accountant and a private investigator. They're going to find out exactly what Barrett's been doing with his money, where he's been spending his time, and whether there are any other surprises we need to know about. You think there might be more? Mrs. Ramsey, in my experience, when someone's been living a double life for 4 years, there's always more. The forensic accountant's name was Eloise Park, and she had the kind of focused intensity that made me think she probably found tax fraud in her sleep and woke up excited about it. We met at a coffee shop in the Loop because she said she thinks better surrounded by caffeine and chaos. So, she said, pulling out a laptop that looked like it could hack government databases. Let's talk about your husband's finances. Walk me through what you know. I explained Barrett's real estate development business, the properties he'd been working on, his typical income. Eloise listened, typing occasionally, asking clarifying questions. Do you have access to his business accounts? Some. We keep separate business finances, but we have joint personal accounts. Good. I'll need login information for anything you can access. Also, credit card statements, tax returns for the last 5 years, any property deeds, investment portfolios, basically, anything financial. I can get all of that. Perfect. Now here's what I'm looking for. Unusual transactions, cash withdrawals, transfers to accounts you don't recognize, purchases that don't match his stated lifestyle. If he's been supporting another family, he's been paying for it somehow. And if he's been preparing to divorce you, he might have been hiding assets. Over the next week, Eloise and I met 3 more times. Each time, she'd found something new. Small things at first. Cash withdrawals that didn't match Barrett's usual patterns. A recurring payment to something called Serenity Wellness Studio. Sienna's yoga studio, it turned out. Then bigger things. A bank account I didn't know about with over $80,000 in it. Property holdings listed under an LLC I'd never heard of. Your husband, Eloise said during our 4th meeting, has been systematically moving money for at least 2 years. Not huge amounts at any one time. He's smarter than that, but consistently. It adds up. I estimate he's hidden approximately $300,000 in assets so far. I felt my jaw literally drop. $300,000? Give or take. And that's just what I've found so far. There might be more. $300,000. That was my annual salary. That was years of savings. That was supposed to be our future, and Barrett had been siphoning it off like a corporate embezzler. I called Marcus immediately. He hid $300,000? Marcus's voice had taken on that gleeful tone that lawyers get when they realize they have an airtight case. Thea, this is perfect. Illinois is an equitable distribution state, which means assets are supposed to be divided fairly. If Barrett's been hiding assets, that's dissipation of marital property. Not only do you get a bigger share to compensate, but judges hate that. It makes him look dishonest and manipulative. Because he is dishonest and manipulative. Exactly. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to let him think he's getting away with it. Don't confront him yet. Let him keep digging his own grave. The private investigator is also gathering information on his relationship with Sienna. Once we have everything documented, we file for divorce and hit him with all of it at once. How long will that take? 2, maybe 3 more weeks. Can you wait that long? I thought about Barrett in his hotel room, probably texting Sienna about how his mean wife was being unreasonable. I thought about Oliver, a 3-year-old who'd done nothing wrong but had a father who was terrible at being a human. I thought about Sienna, who might not even know I existed until recently. I can wait, I said. I'm good at patience when I know there's a payoff coming. The private investigator's report arrived 2 weeks later, and it was comprehensive. Barrett and Sienna had been together for 4 years. They'd met at her yoga studio when she was teaching a executive wellness class that Barrett's company had sponsored. The relationship had started as an affair, became serious when she got pregnant, and had basically been a second marriage ever since. Barrett had been supporting Sienna and Oliver financially. The yoga studio didn't pay great, apparently. and had been planning to move in with them officially once the divorce was finalized. He'd told Sienna that he and I were separated but still living together for financial reasons, which was a creative rewrite of reality. The investigator had also found something else. Barrett had been telling people in his professional circle that he was divorced. Colleagues, clients, potential investors. He'd been operating as a single man in his business life while still being married to me in his personal life. I showed the report to Marcus. "This keeps getting better," Marcus said. "Or worse, depending on your perspective. But for our purposes, better. We can demonstrate that Barrett has been systematically lying, hiding assets, and planning to divorce you in a way that would benefit him financially while leaving you in the dark. That's not going to play well in court. When do we file?" "Monday. I'll have the papers drawn up by end of business today. We're going to ask for temporary orders that freeze all assets, require Barrett to pay temporary support, and give you exclusive possession of the marital home. Then we're going to discovery the hell out of him and expose every single thing he's been hiding." I felt something in my chest that I hadn't felt in weeks. Satisfaction. Not happiness. That was still a long way off. But satisfaction that Barrett's carefully constructed plan was about to collapse spectacularly. "Do it," I said. Marcus grinned. "With pleasure." The divorce papers were served to Barrett on a Monday morning at 8:43 a.m. I know this because the process server texted me a photo of Barrett's face when he opened the door of his hotel room. The man looked like he'd been slapped with a frozen fish. By 9:15 a.m., my phone was ringing. Barrett's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called 4 more times. I ignored all of them. Finally, he texted, "Barrett, we need to talk about this. You're being unreasonable." Me. "No, I'm being an attorney. There's a difference." Barrett. "Thea, please, can we at least discuss this like adults?" Me. "You mean like adults who tell their spouses they have secret children? That kind of adult conversation? Because I'm pretty sure we missed that opportunity 4 years ago." He didn't respond to that. The temporary orders hearing was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Marcus and his team were building what he called the most beautiful case of marital misconduct I've seen in 15 years. Eloise had finished her forensic analysis and found even more hidden assets. An investment account in Barrett's mother's name that he controlled. Another property in Indiana listed under his business partner's LLC. Total hidden assets? Marcus told me over the phone. Approximately $485,000. Plus, he's been underreporting his income to you. His development company is doing much better than he's been saying. $485,000. I sat in my office, my real office, where I did actual work and didn't lie to my colleagues about my marital status, and felt the full weight of Barrett's betrayal sink in. It wasn't just the affair. It wasn't just Oliver. It was the systematic, calculated theft of our shared future. But here's where things got interesting. Because while I was planning to legally demolish Barrett, I got a call from an unexpected source. "Is this Thea Ramsey?" A woman's voice, young, uncertain. "Yes." "Who's this?" "My name is Sienna Cole. We need to talk." I should have hung up. Marcus would have told me to hang up. Talking to your husband's mistress before a divorce is finalized is generally a bad idea. But curiosity won out. "I'm listening. Can we meet? In person? There's something you need to know about Barrett. Something I just found out." 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Sienna Cole in a Starbucks in Wicker Park. She was exactly what you'd expect. 28, blonde, yoga-toned, wearing Lululemon and looking stressed. Oliver, the 3-year-old who'd inadvertently blown up my marriage, was with Barrett, apparently. "Thank you for meeting me," Sienna said. She looked like she'd been crying. "I know this is weird. Beyond weird. That's one word for it. I need you to know. I didn't know you and Barrett were still together. Not really together. He told me you were separated. That you'd both agreed to stay married on paper until some business deal went through, but that you were basically roommates. He showed me paperwork that looked official. Paperwork? A separation agreement, signed by both of you, dated 2 years ago. I felt my blood pressure spike. Sienna, I never signed a separation agreement. We were never separated. Barrett has been lying to you. Her face crumbled. I knew it. God, I knew something was off, but I wanted to believe him. We have a son together. I thought we were building a life. Despite myself, I felt a twinge of sympathy. We'd both been played by the same man. Why did you want to meet me? Sienna pulled out her phone, opened her messages, and slid it across the table. Because of this. I read the conversation. It was between Barrett and someone named Jade. Recent messages, very recent, from yesterday. Barrett. Once the Thea situation is handled, we can move forward with our plans. Jade. And what about S and the kid? Barrett. Manageable. She's been useful, but she's getting clingy. I'll figure something out. Jade. You always do. Can't wait to finally be together properly. Barrett. Soon. Promise. Love you. I stared at the phone. Then at Sienna. Who's Jade? His business partner's sister. I did some digging after I saw these messages. They've been involved for about 6 months. He's been telling her he's leaving me. The room spun slightly. Barrett hadn't just had one affair. He'd had at least 2, possibly more. Sienna and I, both of us, were just way stations in Barrett's endless quest for, what? Validation? Variety? A complete inability to be a decent human being? Why are you showing me this? I asked. Sienna's jaw tightened. Because Barrett doesn't get to blow up our lives and walk away unscathed. I have a 3-year-old son who deserves a father who's honest. You have years of marriage that he threw away. And Jade? She has no idea what she's getting into. Barrett needs to face consequences for once in his life. I looked at this woman, this yoga instructor who'd been sleeping with my husband for 4 years, who had his child, who'd believed his lies, and felt something unexpected. Respect. She was angrier than I'd seen anyone in weeks, and she was channeling it into something useful. What do you want to do? I asked. I want to help you destroy him. Legally, financially, socially, everything. He's been playing all of us, and I'm done being played. I sat back in my chair. Marcus would have a stroke if he knew I was having this conversation. But sometimes the best legal strategy requires unconventional allies. Tell me everything you know about Barrett's finances, I said. And I mean everything. Over the next week, Sienna became an unexpected asset in my divorce case. She had information I didn't, details about Barrett's business dealings, cash payments he'd made, properties he'd mentioned buying that weren't on any official records. She'd also kept meticulous records of every dollar he'd given her, every promise he'd made, every lie he'd told. Marcus was initially horrified when I told him I'd been meeting with Sienna. Then he saw her documentation and changed his tune. This is actually brilliant, he admitted. She's essentially a witness to Barrett's financial misconduct, and if she's willing to testify about the money he gave her, we can trace where it came from. Most of it was probably marital funds. She'll testify, I confirmed. She's motivated. What about the Jade situation? We're going to let that play out naturally. If Barrett's planning to leave Sienna for Jade, he'll eventually show his hand, and when he does, it'll demonstrate a pattern of behavior that no judge will look kindly on. The temporary orders hearing was fascinating, in the way that watching a car accident is fascinating. Barrett showed up with his attorney, some corporate guy who clearly didn't specialize in family law, expecting a routine procedural hearing. What he got was me, Marcus, and a nuclear bomb's worth of evidence. Marcus presented the forensic accounting report, the hidden assets, the secret bank accounts, the underreported income. Barrett's attorney tried to sputter objections, but the documentation was ironclad. Then Marcus brought up the affair with Sienna, the secret child, and chef's kiss, the texts between Barrett and Jade that proved he'd been juggling multiple relationships. Barrett's face went through more colors than a mood ring. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Justice Kwan, who'd apparently seen every terrible thing divorcing spouses could do to each other, was not amused. "Mr. Ramsey," she said, voice dripping with contempt, "you've hidden assets, maintained extramarital relationships, misrepresented your financial situation, and lied to multiple people about your marital status. I'm granting Mrs. Ramsey's request for temporary orders." All assets are frozen. You'll pay temporary maintenance and reimburse her for half of what you've hidden. And Mr. Ramsey, I'm going to be watching your case very closely going forward. It was beautiful. It was poetry. It was everything I'd been working toward. Barrett left the courtroom looking like he'd been hit by a truck. I left feeling like I'd just won the first battle in a war I was absolutely going to win. Outside the courthouse, Marcus turned to me. That went better than expected. What happens now? Now we prepare for the final trial. We gather more evidence, depose Barrett and his associates, and build a case that ensures you get what you deserve, both financially and in terms of vindication. How long? 3 to 4 months, probably. Think you can wait that long? I thought about Barrett's face in that courtroom. The panic. The realization that his carefully constructed lies had collapsed. The understanding that he'd underestimated me catastrophically. Marcus, I said, I've waited 8 years for Barrett to be honest with me. I can wait 4 months to watch him pay for not being honest. He grinned. You know, when Jules recommended you to me, she said you were one of the smartest attorneys she knew. She was right. Thanks, though I'm pretty sure I'm about to win the award for most dramatic divorce case of the year at the next Chicago Bar Association meeting. You'd be surprised. This barely cracks the top 10. We went our separate ways. I headed back to my office where my actual job, the one that didn't involve destroying my ex-husband, awaited. But before I got in my car, I checked my phone. There was a message from Sienna. Sienna. Heard it went well today. Good. He deserves everything coming to him. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For all of it. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, me. We were both victims of the same con man, but we're not victims anymore. We're plaintiffs. Big difference. Sienna. I like that. Plaintiffs. Not victims. Me. Exactly. See you at the deposition. I got in my car and drove home. To my house now, since Barrett was barred from the property by court order, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Powerful. Barrett had thought he could control the narrative, the timeline, the outcome. He'd thought wrong. And the best part? We were just getting started. The next 3 months were a masterclass in legal warfare. Marcus and his team deposed everyone. Barrett, his business partner, his accountant, even poor Jade, who showed up looking shell-shocked and left looking traumatized after realizing she'd been dating a man with more red flags than a Soviet parade. Each deposition revealed something new and terrible. Barrett had been embezzling from his own company to fund his various relationships. He'd lied on loan applications. He'd misrepresented property values to investors. The man was basically a one-person crime wave wearing Patagonia vests and expensive watches. But the real vindication came during Barrett's deposition. Marcus eviscerated him. For 6 hours, he walked Barrett through every lie, every hidden account, every affair. By the end, Barrett looked like he'd aged 10 years. Mr. Ramsey, Marcus said, voice casual like he was asking about the weather. Can you explain why you told Sienna Cole that you were separated from your wife when you were, in fact, still cohabiting and presenting yourself as married? I wanted to spare her feelings. By lying to her? It's complicated. Is it also complicated that you told Jade Mercier you were single? And that you told investors you were divorced? And that you told your wife that you weren't having affairs? That's a lot of complications, Mr. Ramsey. Almost like you have a pattern of dishonesty. Barrett's attorney tried to object, but the damage was done. Marcus had methodically established that Barrett was a liar, a cheat, and an unreliable narrator of his own life. The coup de grace came when Eloise presented her final forensic analysis. She'd found everything, every hidden account, every sketchy transaction, every penny Barrett had tried to squirrel away. The total came to just over $600,000 in hidden or misappropriated marital assets. $600,000. Your Honor, Marcus said during the final trial 3 weeks later, this isn't just a case of marital infidelity. This is systematic financial fraud perpetrated by a man who viewed his wife as an obstacle to his lifestyle rather than a partner. Mr. Ramsey has demonstrated a pattern of deception, manipulation, and self-interest that warrants punitive measures. Justice Kwan listened to all the evidence, reviewed the documentation, and then delivered a ruling that was so satisfying I almost cried. I'm awarding Mrs. Ramsey 75% of all marital assets, including all hidden assets. Mr. Ramsey will pay her attorney's fees, which total approximately $87,000. He will also pay maintenance for 3 years. And Mr. Ramsey? I'm referring your conduct to the State Bar and to the IRS for potential investigation. This level of deception suggests patterns that may extend beyond this marriage. Barrett's face was ashen. His attorney looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. I sat there, next to Marcus, trying to maintain professional composure when what I really wanted to do was fist pump like I'd just scored the winning touchdown. 75% of assets. Attorney's fees covered. Maintenance for 3 years. And, the cherry on top, referrals to organizations that could make Barrett's life significantly more complicated. It was perfect. It was beautiful. It was exactly what I'd been working toward for 4 months. Outside the courtroom, Marcus shook my hand. Congratulations, Thea. That's one of the best outcomes I've seen in years. Couldn't have done it without you. Or Eloise. Or, weirdly, Sienna. Speaking of which, he gestured down the hall where Sienna was standing with her own attorney. She'd filed for child support and paternity establishment, and from what I'd heard, she was getting everything she deserved. Barrett would be paying support for Oliver until he was 18. I walked over to her. We'd developed an odd friendship over the past few months. Trauma bonding, my therapist called it. We'd probably never be close, but we had a mutual respect forged in the fires of Barrett's spectacular dishonesty. You won, she said simply. We both won, I corrected. You're getting child support and full custody. That's a victory. Yeah. Oliver deserves better than Barrett anyway. Hopefully he'll grow up knowing that actions have consequences. She paused. For what it's worth. I'm glad I met you. Not the circumstances, obviously, but you showed me what it looks like to stand up for yourself, to demand what you're worth. Right back at you. You could have stayed silent. You chose to help instead. We hugged, which was surreal considering 4 months ago I'd wanted to throw things at her. Funny how life works. The fallout from the divorce rippled through Barrett's life like an earthquake through a house of cards. His business partnership dissolved when his partner discovered the embezzlement. 2 investors pulled out of projects when they learned about his dishonesty. The country club, his beloved country club where he'd pretended to play tennis while actually having an affair, quietly suggested he might be happier elsewhere after word spread about the divorce details. Jade, predictably, dumped him approximately 30 seconds after the trial ended. I heard through the grapevine that she left him a voicemail that consisted entirely of creative insults questioning his intelligence, integrity, and anatomical adequacy. Good for her. Barrett ended up moving to a 1-bedroom apartment in Schaumburg, a far cry from our Lincoln Park brownstone or the River North luxury apartment he'd been planning. His car got repossessed after he fell behind on payments. His business limped along but never recovered its former success. Meanwhile, I thrived. The brownstone sold for an excellent price. Turned out Lincoln Park real estate was still hot, and I bought a gorgeous condo in the Gold Coast with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Started dating a fellow attorney named Quentin who thought my divorce story was the most impressive legal demolition I've ever heard, and seemed to find competence attractive, which was refreshing. I also got a promotion at my firm, partner track. Turns out, channeling rage into work productivity is an excellent career strategy. My billable hours had never been higher. But the real satisfaction came 6 months post-divorce when I ran into Barrett at a Whole Foods. He was in the checkout line with a sad little basket containing frozen dinners and cheap beer. I had fresh flowers, good cheese, expensive wine, and ingredients for a dinner party I was hosting that weekend. He saw me first. I watched him recognize me, watched the parade of emotions cross his face. Embarrassment, regret, something that might have been longing. I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just nothing. Thea, he said as I walked past with my overflowing cart. You look great. Thanks. I genuinely couldn't think of anything else to say to him. He'd become irrelevant to my life so completely that seeing him was like running into a person you vaguely remembered from college but couldn't quite place. I wanted to say, he started. Barrett, don't. I kept my voice neutral. Whatever you want to say. It's too late and I don't need to hear it. You made your choices. I made mine. We're done. I left him standing there in the checkout line looking diminished. Not because I'd destroyed him, though I had, legally speaking, but because he'd destroyed himself. He'd built his entire life on lies and manipulation, and when it finally collapsed, he had nothing left to hold up. As I loaded groceries into my car, paid for with my money, registered in my name only, I felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Not for Barrett, obviously, but for the whole terrible experience. It had forced me to examine my life, recognize what I'd been tolerating, and rebuild something better. The woman who'd come home early that Wednesday in October and overheard her husband's betrayal? She'd been someone who worked 80-hour weeks, never questioned her marriage, and assumed loyalty because she'd been loyal. The woman loading groceries into her car 6 months later? She worked reasonable hours, had standards, and knew exactly what she was worth. That's the funny thing about betrayal. It can destroy you or it can refine you. Barrett thought it would destroy me. Joke's on him. It just made me sharper. 1 year after the divorce was finalized, I found myself at a rooftop bar in River North with Juliet, celebrating her birthday. The Chicago skyline glittered around us. Lake Michigan stretched dark and infinite beyond. And I was on my third old-fashioned feeling philosophical in that way you do when good alcohol meets good company. Can I tell you something weird? I said to Jules. Weirder than your ex-husband having a secret family and multiple affairs while embezzling from his own company? Different kind of weird. I think I'm grateful it all happened. Jules raised her eyebrows. The Barrett situation? You're grateful for that dumpster fire? Not grateful it happened exactly. Grateful for what I learned from it. I swirled my drink, watching the ice catch the light. I spent 8 years in a marriage where I was working 80 hours a week, assuming everything was fine because I was too busy to notice it wasn't. Barrett's betrayal forced me to actually look at my life and realize how much I'd been settling for. You weren't settling. You were succeeding. Partner track at 36 is impressive. Professionally, sure. But personally, I was half asleep, just going through motions. Now, I'm awake. I'm present. I'm building a life I actually want instead of one that just happens to me. Jules clinked her glass against mine. Look at you. Growing as a person. I'm proud. Also, revenge is surprisingly therapeutic. Highly recommend legally destroying someone who wronged you. And there's the Thea I know. She laughed. Whatever happened with Sienna? We still text occasionally. She's doing well. Oliver's 4 now, thriving in preschool. She started her own yoga studio. Turns out Barrett's child support is substantial when you've documented everything and have a good attorney. She's dating someone new, a teacher. Says he's boring in all the right ways. And Barrett? I shrugged. Last I heard, he's still in Schaumburg, still trying to rebuild his business. The IRS thing didn't help. Turns out tax evasion is frowned upon. Who knew? I grinned. He lost his real estate license for 6 months, which for a developer is basically a death sentence. Had to work construction for a while. Ouch. Yeah? Consequences are inconvenient like that. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city lights shimmer. Chicago on a perfect October evening is magical. That brief window when the weather's still warm enough for rooftop bars, but cool enough that you're not melting into your seat. The kind of night that makes you forget about the brutal winters and remember why you actually chose to live in a city where the wind has a personal vendetta against your face 6 months a year. You know what I learned? I said eventually. People always talk about closure like it's this thing someone gives you. The person who wronged you apologizes, explains, makes it right, and then you get closure. But that's garbage. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you create for yourself. Deep thoughts at rooftop bars. This is quality content. I'm serious. Barrett never apologized. Not really. He tried that day at Whole Foods, but it was hollow. Just words to make himself feel better. And I realized I didn't need his apology. Didn't need him to understand what he'd done wrong. I just needed to decide I was done letting him take up space in my head. Jules studied me. And are you? Done? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Yeah, I am. He's just this person I used to know who turned out to be terrible, like a bad movie you walked out of halfway through. You don't spend years thinking about that movie. You just move on to better ones. That's surprisingly healthy. I have a very good therapist. Costs a fortune, but worth every penny. Therapy paid for by Barrett's settlement money? Obviously. Felt appropriate. We ordered another round of drinks. The night was warm. The company was perfect. And my life had rebuilt itself into something better than what I'd lost. Not perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. But mine. Genuinely, authentically mine in a way it hadn't been for years. My phone buzzed. Text from Quentin asking if I wanted to grab brunch tomorrow. I smiled and texted back, yes. New boyfriend treating you well? Jules asked. He's great. Emotionally available, honest, has all his shit together. It's wild. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, but my therapist says that's trauma response, and I should work on accepting that not everyone is secretly terrible. Reasonable advice. Who knew that basic human decency would feel like winning the lottery after Barrett? Jules laughed, but then got serious. Real talk, though. Are you happy? I considered the question. Happy. What a complicated word. Was I deliriously joyful every moment? No. Did I still have days where I felt bitter about the years I'd wasted? Sure. Did I sometimes lie awake at night wondering what signs I'd missed? What I could have done differently? Occasionally? But was I happy? Yeah, I was. I'm happy, I said finally. Not because everything's perfect, but because I'm living a life I chose instead of one that just happened to me. I'm dating someone who respects me. I have work I'm good at. I have friends who show up when I need them. I have a view of Lake Michigan and a closet full of clothes that make me feel confident and a therapist who calls me on my bullshit. That's happiness. Not the movie version. The real version. I'll drink to that. We clinked glasses again. Around us, Chicago hummed with Friday night energy. People laughing, music drifting up from street level, the city alive and vibrant and full of possibility. Somewhere in Schaumburg, Barrett was probably having a significantly less pleasant evening. Maybe scrolling through social media, seeing updates about my life. Maybe regretting his choices. Maybe still trying to justify them to himself. I didn't know, didn't care. He'd become irrelevant to my story. Just a chapter that taught me valuable lessons about boundaries, self-worth, and the importance of actually paying attention to your own life. The best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's living so well they become an afterthought. Barrett had wanted to leave me for a better life. Instead, I'd left him behind for mine. You know what's funny? I said to Jules as we prepared to leave. Barrett thought he was the smart one, the one in control, the one who'd planned everything perfectly. But he forgot the most important rule of any strategy. What's that? I grinned. Never underestimate a woman who knows exactly how much you're worth and has access to your tax returns. Jules burst out laughing. That should be on a t-shirt. Or a legal brief. I could cite it as precedent. We left the rooftop bar arm in arm. Two women in our 30s who'd learned that life rarely goes according to plan. But that didn't mean you couldn't write a better ending. The city spread out before us, full of possibility and second chances and futures that were ours to build. Barrett had taken a lot from me. 8 years, $600,000 he'd tried to hide, the comfortable fiction of a happy marriage. But he'd also given me something, inadvertently, permission to become someone new, someone stronger, someone who didn't settle for dishonesty disguised as partnership. Was that worth 8 years of my life? Probably not. But since I couldn't get those years back, I might as well extract value from the lessons they taught me. And the biggest lesson? When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Then hire an excellent attorney and make sure they regret underestimating you. Life's too short for bad marriages and hidden assets, but it's exactly long enough for epic legal victories and waterfront condos. Turns out karma doesn't need much help when you've got good documentation and a forensic accountant with a vendetta against financial fraud. Barrett wanted a strategic exit from our marriage. I gave him an exit, all right. Just not the one he planned. The view from my new life is pretty spectacular. Thanks for the settlement money, Barrett. I'm putting it to excellent use. You know that moment when you get uninvited from a wedding, but your fiancé still gets to be best man alongside his ex-girlfriend? Yeah. Apparently, that's what they call budget cuts in Texas suburbia. Spoiler alert, while he was busy playing happy couple with his ex in Napa Valley, I was busy making financial decisions he'd regret for years. I'm Joy Mitchell, 29 years old, marketing specialist in Austin, and the woman who just discovered that being the understanding fiancé was actually my worst career move yet. Friday morning, June 14th, 6:30 a.m., Troy Patterson, my fiancé of 8 months, boyfriend of 2 years, was already dressed, packed, and kissing my forehead like I'm his grandmother. Baby, you're honestly not missing anything. Just boring family stuff. Mostly speeches and photos. Right. Boring family stuff where he'd spend 48 hours standing next to Astrid Winters, his college sweetheart turned just a friend. The same Astrid who somehow became maid of honor for his cousin Simone's destination wedding. And Troy? Best man. Because the universe clearly majored in irony. The text from Simone had arrived 2 weeks earlier. Tuesday afternoon, right after my client presentation. Hey, Joy. So sorry, but we had to trim the guest list for budget reasons. Family only, basically. You understand, right? Family only. Except Troy wasn't technically family yet. But he made the cut. Me? The actual fiancé who'd helped him pick out that Tom Ford tuxedo? Expendable. I'd texted back, of course, no worries at all. Because here's what marketing professionals know. Never show your hand early. You smile, you wait, you strategize, then you strike when they're not looking. Troy had asked if I was okay with him still going. Over tacos at Torchy's, he'd even offered to skip it. But his eyes told a different story. He wanted to go, needed to go. And honestly, I wanted him to go too. Because my gut was screaming that I needed to see what happened when Troy thought I wasn't watching. So Friday morning, I watched him load his car. Garment bag with the tuxedo I'd helped select. Dior Sauvage cologne I'd bought him for Christmas. Weekend bag packed for wine country. He left at 7:20. His Uber pulled away at 7:22. By 7:30, I was alone with my coffee and a decision to make. Troy had this old MacBook. Silver 2015 model he'd replaced years ago, kept in the hall closet as backup storage. Funny thing about backup storage, people forget it's still synced to their iCloud. 8 a.m. I opened that laptop. Password 04M5. My birthday, April 15th. Almost made me feel guilty. Almost. 8:13 a.m. Messages loaded from iCloud. 8:15 a.m. First message from Astrid, dated January 3rd. Can't wait to catch up at the wedding. It's been too long, T. The thread went back 6 months. Not daily messages, but consistent. Every few days, sometimes more. Inside jokes, college memories, photos I'd never seen. Then in April, buried between casual conversation, Astrid. Honestly, I think about us sometimes. Wonder what would have happened if we'd tried harder. Troy. Same, but timing, you know. Life gets complicated. Astrid. Does it have to be? I kept scrolling. No explicit declarations, no inappropriate photos, just emotional infidelity delivered in careful, deniable doses. Every, you get me, and she doesn't understand, was another paper cut. May 17th, 6 weeks ago. Troy wrote, sometimes I think I'm with the wrong person for the right reasons. Does that make sense? Astrid replied, completely. Safety isn't the same as happiness, T. There it was. My fiancé had told his ex-girlfriend that I was safe, but not happy. 9 a.m. Troy's flight took off. I watched the airplane icon cross my tracking app. American Airlines to San Francisco, then a rental car to Napa. 9:07 a.m. I opened our Wells Fargo joint account. The romantic saving for our future account we'd opened 18 months ago. Current balance, $43,000. Then I started scrolling transaction history. Something caught my eye. For 8 months straight, Troy had been making matching deposits and transfers. He'd deposit his paycheck contribution into our joint account, then immediately transfer $500 out to a separate savings account. His name only. An account I'd never heard of. Quick math. 8 months times 500 equals $4,000. Money that technically came from our shared finances, just recycled through his personal account. Half of those contributions, $2,000, came from my side of our joint deposits. I pulled up my contribution records. 18 months of deposits. My total, $21,500. Exactly half of everything in that account. 9:45 a.m. I called Wells Fargo, verified my identity, asked about withdrawal policies for joint accounts. The representative was cheerful. "Yes, ma'am. With your name on the account, you're authorized to make any transaction up to the full balance." "Just confirming," I said sweetly. "Thank you." 10:30 a.m. I drove to the Wells Fargo branch on South Lamar. Wore my blazer and nice jeans. Professional. Calm. The kind of woman who knows exactly what she's doing. The banker, Patricia, smiled when I sat down. "How can I help you?" "I need to transfer funds from my joint account to my individual Chase account." I slid my cards across her desk. $21,500. She processed it without blinking. 11 minutes total. Confirmation number appeared on the screen, then my phone. Balance transferred, $21,500. Zero remaining in joint account, $21,500. Perfectly fair, perfectly legal, perfectly mine. 11:15 a.m. Home Depot. 20 cardboard boxes, packing tape, bubble wrap. $63 total. 1 p.m. I started packing, methodically. My clothes, my books, my kitchen equipment. The throw pillows I'd bought because Troy's decorating aesthetic was frat house minimalism. Plants I'd kept alive for 2 years. Photos of my family. I left everything of his. The apartment could stay exactly how he wanted it. Boring, beige, and entirely his financial problem. 3:45 p.m. Last box loaded in my car. I stood in the living room one final time. 14 months of shared space. Sunday dinners. Movie nights. The place where I'd actually believed we were building something real. I walked to the kitchen table, pulled out a note card, wrote in neat handwriting, "Troy, since the apartment lease is solely in your name, I'm returning it entirely to you. My monthly contribution of $100 ends today. Rent is $1,250 a month. I'm confident you'll manage. Also, I withdrew my half from our joint account. Check the balance when convenient. Enjoy Napa. Joy." Propped it against the salt shaker. Left my key on top. 4 p.m. I drove to the East Side studio I'd viewed 3 months ago. Near Muller Development. Hardwood floors, big windows, tiny balcony overlooking downtown. $750 monthly. The landlord, a retired teacher named Mrs. Caldwell, met me with the lease. "You said you might need it eventually. Glad I held it." I'd paid the deposit 3 months prior. Before the wedding drama. Before finding any messages. Just insurance. Because my instincts had been whispering warnings even then. 6 p.m. Unpacking in my new place, solo, free, $21,500 richer. My phone buzzed. Troy, from Napa. "Just got to the hotel. This place is gorgeous. Wish you were here." I typed back, "Have the best time. You deserve it." Because he absolutely did deserve everything coming his way. Saturday, June 15th. While Troy was living his best rom-com life in Napa Valley, I was discovering that freedom tastes a lot like overpriced coffee from Joe's on South Congress. 9 a.m. I woke up in my new studio. Sunlight streaming through windows that were mine, in a space where nobody had secret bank accounts or ex-girlfriends on speed dial. The silence was gorgeous. No Troy humming off-key in the shower. No Troy leaving cabinets open. No Troy existing. I grabbed my phone. Troy's Instagram story from last night showed the rehearsal dinner. Long tables draped in white linen, string lights, vineyard views that screamed, "We spent your annual salary on appetizers." And there, right in the center of frame, Troy in a navy suit, Astrid in a dusty rose dress, laughing at something with their heads tilted toward each other. The caption, "Reunion vibes with the best people." I screenshot it, added it to a folder I'd started on my laptop titled, "Evidence of Poor Life Choices." 10 a.m. My phone rang. Unknown Austin number. "Joy, hi, this is Patricia from Wells Fargo." The banker from yesterday. Her voice had that careful, professional tone people use when delivering news. I'm calling because there was some unusual activity on your joint account this morning that I thought you should know about. My coffee stopped halfway to my mouth. Activity? Mr. Patterson attempted to make a withdrawal of $15,000 at 9 a.m. this morning, Texas time. The transaction was declined due to insufficient funds. She paused. He called our customer service line quite upset. They explained that a large withdrawal was made Friday by the other account holder, that's you, which left his requested amount unavailable. I smiled into my coffee. 9 in the morning. Troy had woken up early in Napa Valley, 7 a.m. Pacific, probably trying to pull cash before anyone noticed, maybe planning some grand gesture to impress Astrid, and discovered his safety net had vanished. I see. And the current balance? $21,500. Your withdrawal yesterday was completely legitimate. I just wanted to make sure you were aware he'd tried to access funds. Thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate you calling. Of course. Enjoy? Between us? Good for you. I hung up and laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my empty studio. Troy had tried to pull 15 grand, probably to look impressive in front of Astrid, maybe pay for some ridiculous romantic gesture, and discovered the well had run dry. 11 a.m., text from Troy. Hey, can you call me when you get a chance? Something weird with the bank? I texted back. In yoga class. Talk later? I was not in yoga class. I was at Target buying sheets that Troy had never touched, towels he'd never used, and a succulent that would outlive our relationship. 1 p.m. I met my best friend Marnie at Magnolia Cafe for lunch. Marnie's a lawyer, family law specifically, and the only person who'd known something was wrong before I did. You actually did it. She raised her mimosa. You moved out. And withdrew my half of our savings. I clinked my glass against hers. All $21,500 of it. Legally yours. Morally justified. Emotionally satisfying. Marnie grinned. So what's the plan? Just ghost him? Oh no. Ghosting is for people who owe you nothing. Troy owes me an explanation, an apology, and approximately 14 months of wasted time I'll never get back. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots of messages between Troy and Astrid. I'm documenting everything. Timeline, amounts, conversations. Marnie's lawyer brain kicked in. Joint account, both names. You withdrew your exact contribution. That's airtight. Apartments in his name only. You gave written notice of departure. Messages prove emotional affair, but no grounds for him to claim anything. She looked up. Joy, you could destroy him with this. I know. I took a long sip of mimosa. I'm just deciding how public the destruction should be. 3 p.m. Back at my studio, I started building the PowerPoint. Yes, a PowerPoint. Because if you're going to blow up someone's life, you might as well do it with proper citations and slide transitions. Slide 1. Why Joy wasn't at the wedding, a presentation. Slide 2. Timeline of relationship, 2 years, engaged 8 months. Slide 3. Screenshot of Simone's budget cuts text, dated May 28th. Slide 4. Instagram photos of Troy and Astrid from the rehearsal dinner. Slides 5 through 12. Selected screenshots of Troy and Astrid's messages, January through May, with dates and timestamps. Slide 13. Bank statement showing Troy's matching deposit and transfer pattern, depositing to joint account while simultaneously moving money to private savings. Slide 14. Joint account showing my total contributions, $21,500, and withdrawal date, June 14th. Slide 15. Photo of my apartment key and goodbye note. Slide 16. Questions? I saved it. Backed it up to 3 different cloud services. This wasn't revenge. This was documentation. There's a difference. 6 p.m. Troy called. I let it go to voicemail. Joy, hey, so something weird happened with our account and I can't reach you and I'm kind of freaking out because I needed to grab some cash for wedding stuff. And it says there's only $21,000 left, but there should be 43, and the bank is saying you made a withdrawal yesterday, which doesn't make sense because you would have told me, right? Can you just call me back? I'm in the middle of wedding stuff, but this is important. Okay. Love you. Call me. The panic in his voice was absolutely delicious, like biting into a perfectly ripe peach, if that peach was flavored with karmic justice. I texted back, "Sorry, phone died, bank stuff is fine, everything's exactly where it should be, enjoy the wedding." 7:30 p.m. Troy's Instagram story showed the wedding ceremony. Outdoor venue, sunset lighting, Astrid and Troy standing on opposite sides of the aisle holding bouquets and looking absolutely picture perfect. His caption, "Honor of my life being part of this day." The comments were full of heart emojis and "you two look amazing" responses. Nobody mentioned me. Why would they? I wasn't there. I'd been budget cut out of existence. I screenshot those too, added them to the presentation. Slide 17, the wedding I wasn't invited to. 9 p.m., group text from Troy's mom, Diane, to what appeared to be the entire Patterson family group chat. 43 people, including me. Diane, "Beautiful ceremony. So proud of Simone and Blake. And doesn't Troy look handsome next to Astrid? They always made such a lovely pair." I stared at that message for a full minute. Troy's own mother, publicly commenting on how lovely her son looked with his ex-girlfriend. In a group chat that included me, his actual fiancé. The responses rolled in. Troy's Aunt Linda, "They really do. Some people are just meant to be." Troy's cousin Marcus, "Troy and Astrid back together? Did I miss something?" Simone, the bride, "Just good friends. But they did crush the choreographed dance at the reception, haha." Choreographed dance. My fiancé and his ex-girlfriend had a choreographed dance at a wedding I wasn't invited to, and his mother was commenting about how lovely they looked, and absolutely nobody thought this was inappropriate. I took a screenshot. Slide 18. Family group chat confirmation that nobody respected this relationship. 10:15. I poured myself a glass of wine. The cheap kind, $7 from Trader Joe's, because I was now financially independent and could buy whatever wine I wanted without Troy commenting that we should invest in better bottles. My phone buzzed. Text from Troy, "Can we please talk about the bank thing? I'm worried something got hacked." Me, "Nothing got hacked. We can talk when you're back. Focus on the wedding." Troy, "But Joy, I needed that money." Me, "Needed it for what?" 3 minutes passed, then, "Never mind, we'll talk Monday." I smiled. He couldn't tell me what he needed $15,000 for because whatever it was, it involved impressing people at a wedding where his fiancé had been deliberately excluded. 11 p.m., one more Instagram story from Troy. The reception. Dance floor packed. Troy and Astrid in the center, clearly mid-choreographed routine, surrounded by cheering guests. His suit jacket was off, sleeves rolled up. Astrid was laughing, head thrown back. They looked like the stars of their own movie. The song tagged in the story, "The Way You Look Tonight" by Frank Sinatra. I sat there in my new studio, in my new life, watching my fiancé dance with his ex-girlfriend to a romantic classic while his entire family cheered them on. And you know what I felt? Nothing. No tears, no heartbreak. Just cold, calculated clarity. Because here's what Troy hadn't realized yet. He'd just given me ammunition. Every Instagram story, every family group chat message, every defensive "we'll talk later" text was another nail in a coffin he didn't even know he was building. Sunday morning would bring him home to an empty apartment. Monday morning would bring him the presentation. And the following hours? Those would bring him the understanding that the safe fiancé he'd taken for granted had a very creative definition of revenge. I finished my $7 wine and started planning slide 19. Sunday, June 16th. Troy's flight was scheduled to land at Austin Bergstrom at 7 p.m. I had exactly 10 hours to finalize my masterpiece. 8 a.m. I woke up to 17 new messages in the Patterson family group chat. Apparently, the wedding reception had been quite the event. Troy's Aunt Linda posted photos. Troy and Astrid cutting the cake together as best man and maid of honor. Troy and Astrid giving a joint toast. Troy and Astrid posing with Simone and Blake under string lights. In every single photo, they looked like the couple. Simone and Blake almost seemed like background characters in Troy and Astrid's reunion special. I scrolled through the comments. Troy's Uncle Richard, Beautiful couple. With a heart emoji pointed directly at a photo of Troy and Astrid. Troy's grandmother, Dorothy. So wonderful to see Troy so happy. Astrid, dear, you look lovely. Not one person mentioned me. Not one person asked where I was. I'd been erased from the family narrative so completely that his grandmother was complimenting his ex-girlfriend in a group chat that included me. I screenshot everything. The presentation was now 23 slides. 9 a.m. I called Marnie. Please tell me you're not backing down, she answered. I need legal advice. Hypothetically, if someone were to share documentation of their failed relationship with their ex's family, could that be considered defamation? Is it true? Every word, every screenshot, every bank statement. Then it's not defamation, it's disclosure. You're not making false statements, you're providing facts. Marnie paused. Joy, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. Nothing unethical. Just radically honest communication. My favorite kind. Do it. 10:30 a.m. I opened the presentation again. Reviewed every slide. Checked every timestamp, every amount, every detail. This needed to be airtight because Troy worked in finance and would absolutely try to find numerical errors to discredit everything else. Slide 24. I added the attempted withdrawal from Saturday. Screenshot of Patricia's call log with timestamp, notation of the declined $15,000 transaction at 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Slide 25. Calculation breakdown showing Troy's deposit and transfer pattern over 8 months, essentially recycling our joint contributions into his private fund while maintaining the appearance of equal partnership. The explanation was clear. Troy deposited his share into our joint account but immediately transferred $500 monthly to his secret savings. While technically his money, the pattern showed deliberate concealment and separate financial planning while claiming we were building a future together. Slide 26. Summary. Financial deception, emotional infidelity, family complicity, and really terrible event planning. 11 a.m. I drove to FedEx office on Lamar. Printed the presentation in full color. 26 pages, professional binding, 3 copies. One for me, one for my records, one for dramatic effect if needed. Total cost, $42, worth every penny. Noon. Back at my studio, I converted the presentation to PDF, created a shareable link, wrote the message I'd send to the family group chat. Draft 1. Hi everyone. Since there seemed to be confusion about why I wasn't at the wedding, here's a comprehensive explanation with visual aids. Too passive. Draft 2. Hey Patterson family. Troy asked me to share our relationship update with everyone. Here's the full story. Too misleading. Draft 3. Hello. I noticed some comments about Troy and Astrid this weekend. Before rumors start, here are the facts about why I wasn't at the wedding and what's been happening in our relationship. Everything is documented with dates and sources. Professional, clear, honest, perfect. I saved the message. Didn't send it yet. Timing would be everything. 2 p.m. My phone rang. Troy, I answered. Hey, how was the wedding? It was great. Amazing. Listen, I'm at SFO waiting for my flight and I really need to know what happened with our account. Joy, there's only half the money there. Right. I withdrew my half on Friday. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, you withdrew $21,000? $21,500, my exact contribution over 18 months. The remaining $21,500 is yours. But that was our money, for our future. I laughed. Actually laughed. Troy, I found your private savings account. The one where you've been transferring $500 every month for 8 months while depositing the same amount into our joint account. So let's not talk about our money when you've been building a separate financial future. Another silence. How did you... That's different. That was for a surprise. What surprise? A surprise breakup? A surprise new life with Astrid? What? No. Joy, you're being crazy right now. Crazy. There it was. The word men use when women catch them. I'm being factual. I withdrew my contribution. You kept yours? We're even. We're not even. I needed that money this weekend. For what? It doesn't matter. The point is, you should have talked to me first. Like you talked to me before opening a secret savings account? Or before spending 6 months emotionally reconnecting with your ex? Or before doing a choreographed dance with her at a wedding I was uninvited from? The dance was just fun. You're reading into things. Troy, your mother called Astrid lovely in the family group chat. Your grandmother complimented her. Your uncle called you two a beautiful couple. In a chat that includes me. Your actual fiancé. They didn't mean it like that. Then how did they mean it? I don't know. Look, my flight's boarding. We'll talk when I get home. Sure. See you at the apartment. I hung up before he could correct me. Before he could say, wait, are you at the apartment? Because I wanted that moment of discovery to hit him at full force. 3:30 p.m. I met Marnie at Mozart's Coffee on Lake Austin. Outdoor seating, perfect weather, celebratory atmosphere. He called you crazy, Marnie said. It wasn't a question. Took him less than 5 minutes. Classic deflection. Did you tell him about the messages? Not yet. I want him to walk into that empty apartment first. Let him sit with that reality before I show him I know everything. Marnie pulled out her phone. Okay, so legally speaking, you're completely protected. Joint account, equal access. You took your half. Apartment was his name only. You gave written notice. The messages are his own words, not obtained illegally. If he tries anything legal, he has no ground to stand on. And the family group chat? If I send the presentation there? It's a private family chat you're legitimately part of. You're sharing factual information about your own relationship. Unless you make threats or false statements, there's nothing he can do. She grinned. Joy, you built an airtight case. He's going to walk into that apartment, find you gone, realize you know everything, and have absolutely no recourse. It's beautiful. 4 p.m. I drove past our old apartment. Troy's Accord wasn't in the parking lot yet. I sat there for a moment, looking at the second-floor window. 14 months of my life in that space. 14 months of cooking dinners he barely noticed. Of cleaning messes he didn't see. Of being the safe choice while he dreamed about someone else. I pulled out my phone. Added one final slide to the presentation. Slide 27. P.S. Troy, the apartment rent is due on the 1st. It's $118.50. Good luck. 5:30 p.m. Back at my studio, I ordered Thai food from Thai Fresh. Pad CEW, spring rolls, mango sticky rice. $43. I didn't check my bank account first. Didn't calculate if I could afford it. Just ordered it. Because that's what freedom tastes like. Pad CEW without guilt. 6:45 p.m. Flight tracker showed Troy's plane had landed. I watched the little airplane icon touch down at Austin Bergstrom. Estimated arrival at the apartment. 7:30, accounting for baggage claim and traffic. 7 p.m. I poured wine, the good kind this time. $15 bottle from Whole Foods. Called myself fancy. 7:15 p.m. I opened the family group chat, read through the weekend messages again, 83 messages total. Not one person had asked about me. 7:28. My phone buzzed. Text from Troy. Where are you? He was home. He'd found the empty apartment. Me. Moved out Friday. Check the kitchen table. Troy. What do you mean moved out? Troy. Joy. What is happening? Troy. Did you really take all your stuff? Troy. Where are you staying? Troy. We need to talk right now. I turned my phone face down. Took a bite of Pad CU. Let him sit in that panic for a while. 8 p.m. 17 missed calls from Troy. 12 more texts ranging from confused to angry to pleading. The last one. I read your note. I don't understand. Can we please just talk like adults? I picked up my phone. Typed, adults don't have secret bank accounts. Adults don't emotionally cheat. Adults don't let their families disrespect their partners. Check your email and check the family group chat in about 30 seconds. I attached the PDF presentation to an email. Subject line. Your question about the bank account, sent to Troy at 8:02 p.m. Then I opened the Patterson family group chat. Posted my prepared message at 8:03 p.m. Hello. I noticed some comments about Troy and Astrid this weekend. Before rumors start, Here are the facts about why I wasn't at the wedding and what's been happening in our relationship. Everything is documented with dates and sources. Attached the same PDF. 27 slides of pure, unfiltered truth. Sent. 8:04 p.m. I watched the read receipts appear. One by one. Not immediately. People were winding down their Sunday evenings, checking phones casually. But they were opening it. 8:07 p.m. My phone buzzed. Troy calling. I declined it. Text from Troy. Joy. Please don't send that to my family. Too late. Already sent. Already being read. I opened a bottle of sparkling water, toasted myself in the mirror. The presentation was out there now. Troy was reading through his own words, his own financial decisions, his own family's disrespect. And in living rooms across Austin and beyond, 43 members of the Patterson family were discovering exactly why I hadn't been at that wedding. Tomorrow morning would bring reactions. Tomorrow afternoon would bring consequences. But tonight I'd let the truth do its work while I enjoyed my $15 wine and the profound satisfaction of knowing I'd documented everything perfectly. My phone buzzed. Troy calling again. I blocked his number. Another buzz. Text from an unknown number. Probably Troy using someone else's phone. We can fix this. Me. Nothing's broken, Troy. Everything's finally exactly how it should be. I opened Instagram. Posted a photo of my new studio's balcony view with downtown Austin glowing in the background. Caption, new chapter, new view, new everything. Within minutes, comments rolled in from my friends. Heart emojis, you go girl messages, questions about what happened, and one comment from Marnie. Chapter 1 was prologue. Chapter 2 is where the magic happens. I smiled. Tomorrow, the Patterson family would wake up to their comprehensive explanation. Tomorrow, the entire social circle would start connecting dots. But tonight belonged to me and my $15 wine and the profound satisfaction of perfect timing. Revenge isn't a dish best served cold. It's a PowerPoint best served simultaneously to the source and the audience. Monday, June 17th. Judgment Day arrived with sunshine and zero mercy. 7 a.m., I woke up to notifications exploding. The Patterson family group chat had gone nuclear overnight. I opened it cautiously. After I'd sent the presentation at 8 p.m. Sunday, the messages had started slowly, people finishing dinner, putting kids to bed, finally checking their phones. But between 9 p.m. and midnight, all 43 family members had apparently read every single slide. The first wave of reactions had been time-stamped around 9:30 p.m. Sunday. Troy's cousin Marcus at 9:34 p.m. Wait, what? Simone at 9:41 p.m. Joy, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Troy told me you couldn't come because of work. Work? He'd told his cousin I'd chosen work over her wedding. Then the dam had broken around 10 p.m. Diane at 10:08 p.m. Troy Patterson, you call me immediately. Linda at 10:15 p.m. I feel sick. Joy, those messages are real? Multiple family members asking for verification, expressing shock, apologizing. And Troy had gone completely silent after his initial panicked texts to me. No responses in the family chat. No defenses. Just digital silence while his family processed 27 slides of documentation. 7:15 a.m. Monday. New messages were still coming in as family members on the East Coast woke up. Uncle Richard at 7:12 a.m. Joy, I called you and Astrid a beautiful couple in that group chat. In front of you. I'm disgusted with myself and with Troy for putting us all in that position. Aunt Linda at 7:18 a.m. The fact that Troy let his entire family disrespect Joy while he played house with his ex is unforgivable. Grandmother Dorothy at 7:23 a.m. I raised you better than this, Troy Michael Patterson. The full name from Grandma. That was serious. 7:30 a.m. My phone rang. Unknown number. Joy? This is Diane, Troy's mother. Her voice was tight. I just want you to know I've been up since 10 p.m. reading your presentation. Multiple times. I owe you an enormous apology. I had no idea he was messaging Astrid like that, or that he'd lied about why you weren't at the wedding. Diane, you didn't know. I should have known. A mother should know when her son is behaving badly. And I enabled it by commenting on how lovely he and Astrid looked, in a group chat that included you, his fiancé. She paused. I'm horrified at myself and at him. 7:45 a.m. Text from unknown number. Joy, this is Astrid. Can we talk? I stared at that message. Astrid Winters, the woman who'd spent 6 months emotionally reconnecting with my fiancé, wanted to talk. Me. Talk. Astrid. Simone just called me. Forwarded me your presentation. Joy, I had no idea Troy was still engaged. He told me you two had broken up in April. That you were just living together until the lease ended. I read that 3 times. Troy had told Astrid we'd broken up. Had told her I was essentially a roommate he was phasing out. Me. We got engaged December 20th. 8 months ago. Never broke up. Still wearing my ring when he left for your wedding. Astrid. I'm going to be sick. Joy, I swear I didn't know. The message is, we were flirting. I know that now. But he framed it like he was single and just being cautious about jumping into something new. He said his last relationship, you, had ended badly and he wanted to take things slow. Me. Did anything physical happen at the wedding? Long pause. Typing bubbles appeared and disappeared 3 times. Finally, we kissed, Saturday night after the reception. He said he'd been waiting years to do that again. He made it sound romantic. Now I know he was cheating on you. There it was. Confirmation. Troy had kissed Astrid. Had physically cheated, not just emotionally. Me. Do you have screenshots of him saying we'd broken up? That I was just a roommate? 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. 3 screenshots. Troy telling Astrid in late April that Joy and I ended things, and we're just coexisting until I find a new place, and I'm finally free to see where this goes with us. I saved them immediately. Added them to the presentation as slides 28, 29, and 30. 8:15 a.m. I updated the PDF and posted the new version in the family group chat. Update. Additional information from Astrid confirming Troy lied to everyone involved. 3 new slides with documentation. He told Astrid we'd broken up in April while still engaged to me. 8:20 a.m. The chat exploded again. Simone at 8:22 a.m. He kissed her? At my wedding? While engaged to you? Diane at 8:24 a.m. Troy Michael Patterson. If you don't call me in the next hour, I'm booking the first flight back to Austin and we will have this conversation face to face. Marcus at 8:26 a.m. This is actually insane. Bro, you're genuinely terrible. 8:35 a.m. Troy finally responded in the group chat. This is a private matter between Joy and me. She had no right to air our relationship problems to my entire family. This is vindictive and inappropriate. I typed back immediately. You involved your entire family when you let them publicly comment on how lovely you and Astrid looked together in a group chat that included me. You involved them when you lied to Simone about why I wasn't at the wedding. You involved them when you used family events to reconnect with your ex while lying to everyone. I'm just providing the context you deliberately withheld. Diane at 8:37 a.m. She has every right, Troy. You humiliated her publicly. She's responding with facts. That's fair. 8:45 a.m. My phone rang. Marnie. Joy. Tell me you're seeing this. Front row seat to the destruction. His own mother is defending you against him. His grandmother used his full name. That's nuclear-level family disappointment, Marnie laughed. The cousin Simone just edited her Instagram wedding post. Did you see? I opened Instagram. Simone's latest post from the wedding had a new caption. Previously, best day ever with the best people. Now, best day ever. Special thanks to the bridesmaids and groomsmen who showed up with integrity and honesty. The comments were already filling up with speculation. 9 a.m. More messages flooded the family chat as West Coast relatives woke up and caught up on the overnight drama. Troy's aunt from California at 9:03 a.m. Just read all 30 slides. Troy, I'm ashamed to be related to you right now. A cousin I'd never met at 9:12 a.m. Joy, I don't know you, but you deserve so much better than this. 9:30 a.m. Troy texted from yet another number. You've made your point. Can we please talk in person? This has gone too far. Me. Nothing's gone too far. Everything is exactly as far as it needs to go. You lied to me, to Astrid, to your family, and to yourself. I'm just declining to help you hide it anymore. Troy. My own family won't talk to me. Simone blocked me on everything. My mom is threatening to fly to Austin just to yell at me in person. Me. Sounds like they're showing you the same consideration you showed me. Troy. What do you want? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry, I messed up. Can we move forward now? I actually laughed out loud. Move forward. Like 6 months of calculated betrayal could be erased with, I'm sorry. Me. I don't want anything from you, Troy. I already took what was mine. The money, the truth, my self-respect. You keep the apartment, the rent you can't afford alone, and the reputation you earned. 10 a.m. Email notification from Wells Fargo. Troy had requested to close the joint account. The remaining $21,500 would transfer to his individual account within 5 business days. Fine by me. That money was his. We were finally, completely even. 10:30 a.m. Marnie called again. Diane reached out to me. Troy's mom? She got my number from someone in the family chat. Asked if you needed legal representation in case Troy tries to claim you stole money or defamed him. She offered to pay for a lawyer to protect you against her own son. I sat down on my balcony. She offered to pay for my defense against Troy. She feels terrible. Said this isn't the first time Troy's done something like this. Apparently he had a high school girlfriend he cheated on, blamed her for being too controlling when she found out. Diane believed him then. She's not making that mistake again. 11 a.m. I drove to Hopdoddy to meet Marnie for a celebratory lunch. Burgers and truffle fries felt appropriate. Check Instagram, Marnie said as soon as I sat down. Troy had posted a story. Black screen, white text. Going through a difficult time. Please respect my privacy. The replies were brutal. Friends calling him out. Respect like you respected Joy? And maybe try honesty for once. Noon. Back at my studio, I checked the family group chat one more time. Someone had created a new chat. Same 42 people. Everyone except Troy. First message from Simone. New chat. Clean slate. No liars welcome. Second message from Diane. Joy, you're always welcome at family events. Troy is not until he gets serious help and makes genuine amends. 1 p.m. Astrid posted on Instagram. Photo of herself on a hiking trail. Caption. Learning to trust my instincts again. Also learning that just friends with an ex who's engaged is never just friends. Growth hurts, but ignorance hurts worse. Comments flooded in, including one from Simone. Proud of you for handling this with grace. I commented, same boat, clearer view now. Here's to better questions and honest answers. Astrid replied within minutes. Joy, I'm so sorry I didn't ask the right questions sooner. Thank you for the truth. 2 p.m. My phone buzzed. Troy, from another new number. I lost everything because of you. I stared at that text for a long moment, then typed, No, Troy. You lost everything because of your own choices. I just stopped pretending those choices didn't matter. There's a difference. Blocked, deleted, done. 3 p.m. I looked around my studio, my space, my furniture. My life rebuilt in 72 hours. No Troy, no lies, no performance of being the understanding fiancé while being systematically disrespected. My phone buzzed one last time. Message from Diane. Joy, I know this probably doesn't matter much coming from me, but you handled this with more grace and intelligence than Troy deserved. You're going to do amazing things. Thank you for not letting him get away with it. I smiled, typed back, Thank you for holding him accountable. That matters more than you know. 4 p.m. I posted on Instagram. Photo of my balcony at golden hour with a glass of wine. Caption. Sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to carry someone else's lies anymore. Update? Thriving. The comments came fast. Friends celebrating. People asking what happened. And buried in there, one from Marnie. To documentation, boundaries, and knowing your worth. The Holy Trinity. 5 p.m. I opened my laptop. The blog I'd been planning, receipts and reckonings, needed its first post. I started typing. Title: The Day I Chose Myself, A Guide to Documentation and Departure. The words flowed. Everything I'd learned. Every mistake I wouldn't repeat. Every red flag I'd ignored. Every moment I'd chosen peace over self-respect. And every single step I'd taken to reclaim both. By 6 p.m., I had 1,500 words. By 7 p.m., the post was live. By 8 p.m., it had been shared 47 times. Women I'd never met were commenting. I needed this. This is my story, too. Thank you for the roadmap. Turns out my worst relationship was becoming someone else's survival guide. Troy got Denver, therapy, and consequences he'd spent 31 years avoiding. I got a growing platform, $21,500 in savings, and the profound satisfaction of knowing I'd burned it all down with nothing but truth and perfect documentation. Seemed like a fair trade to me. 3 months later, September 20th, Austin had shifted from unbearable summer heat to that perfect fall weather where you can actually sit outside without melting. I was on my balcony with coffee, watching downtown Wake Up, when my phone buzzed. Marnie, have you seen Troy's LinkedIn? I don't follow Troy anywhere. That's kind of the point of moving on. He updated his profile. New job. New city. I opened LinkedIn despite myself. Troy Patterson's profile showed a recent update. Excited to announce I've accepted a position as Junior Financial Analyst at Denver Metro Solutions. New city, new chapter. Junior Analyst. He'd been a Senior Analyst in Austin. This was a demotion disguised as a fresh start. The comments tried to sound supportive, but I could read between the lines. Troy had torpedoed his Austin life so thoroughly that relocating to Colorado with a step backward was his only option. Denver's lovely this time of year, I told Marnie. Very far from Texas. Perfect distance. His mom commented on the post, said she's proud of him for getting help and making changes. I scrolled down. Diane had written, "Proud of you for doing the work, son. Therapy is hard but necessary. Keep going." So Troy had actually followed through with therapy. Interesting. Growth looked painful on him, but at least it was happening. My life, meanwhile, had become unrecognizable in the best possible way. The studio apartment I'd rushed into that frantic Friday in June turned out to be exactly what I needed. $750 monthly meant I was saving $350 compared to the $1,100 I'd been paying at Troy's place. Over 3 months, that was over $1,000 in savings just from housing alone, plus the $21,500 I'd withdrawn, still sitting in a high-yield savings account, earning interest, untouched, except for a weekend trip to New Orleans I'd taken in August. Work had exploded in the right direction. That campaign I'd been presenting when Simone uninvited me landed the client, resulted in a promotion to senior marketing strategist in July with a 15% raise. Turns out when you're not spending emotional energy managing someone else's ego, you have a lot more bandwidth for actual career advancement. The Patterson family had stayed in touch. Weirdly, Diane texted every few weeks asking how I was doing, sending articles about marketing she thought I'd find interesting, inviting me to coffee. I'd gone twice. We'd sat at Mozart's Coffee talking about everything from work to family dynamics to Troy's childhood patterns that explained so much about his adult dysfunction. I coddled him, she'd said during our second coffee. Made excuses. Let him blame others for his mistakes. I created that problem and then acted shocked when he destroyed something good. I'd told her that Troy was a grown man responsible for his own choices, but I appreciated her accountability. We'd left as something like friends. Strange how losing a fiancé could gain you an almost mother-in-law who actually respected you. Simone and I had grabbed brunch twice. She'd shown me her wedding photos, the professional ones, not the Instagram disasters, and we'd laughed about how obvious Troy and Astrid's chemistry had been in retrospect. Every single photo of them looks like an engagement shoot, she'd said. Meanwhile, Blake and I look like friends who accidentally wandered into someone else's wedding. Her marriage was solid, though. Blake turned out to be genuinely kind, funny, and the type of guy who'd driven 3 hours to return Simone's forgotten phone charger during their honeymoon, the kind of small gesture that revealed character. Troy would have told her to buy a new one. Astrid and I had developed the strangest friendship. We'd met for coffee in July. Awkward at first, then cathartic. Two women who'd been lied to by the same man, comparing notes like scientists discovering they'd been researching the same phenomenon from different angles. "He told me you were controlling," Astrid had said, "that you tracked his phone and accused him of cheating constantly, made you sound paranoid." "He told me you were desperate," I'd countered, "that you'd been chasing him for years and he was just being polite by staying in touch." We'd stared at each other across the table at Houndstooth Coffee, then simultaneously started laughing. The projection, the manipulation, the sheer audacity of painting both of us as the problem when he was the common denominator. Astrid was seeing someone new now, a graphic designer named Marcus, not Troy's cousin, different Marcus, who she'd met at a community art event. From her Instagram, he looked like the kind of guy who brought her coffee at work and remembered her friends' names. Baseline decent human behavior that felt revolutionary after Troy. I wasn't seeing anyone. Hadn't even tried. Didn't feel like a loss, though. Felt like I was finally getting to know myself without performing for someone else's comfort. Turns out I liked my own company. I could spend entire Saturdays reading on my balcony without someone sighing dramatically about being bored. Could cook elaborate meals or eat cereal for dinner without judgment. Could make plans without checking if they conflicted with someone else's schedule. Freedom tasted like spontaneity and smelled like expensive candles I bought without guilt. The most unexpected development? I'd started that side project in August. The blog, Receipts and Reckonings, about financial literacy and emotional intelligence in relationships. How to protect yourself. How to spot red flags. How to document everything. When to walk away. It had started as therapy, writing out everything I'd learned, but other women started finding it, sharing their stories, asking questions. The blog had grown to 15,000 followers in 6 weeks. 2 literary agents had reached out about turning it into a book. A book. About my catastrophic relationship with Troy Patterson, reframed as a manual for recognizing patterns and protecting yourself. The irony was delicious. Yesterday I'd received an email. Subject line, "Amends." From Troy. I'd stared at it for a full minute before opening. "Joy, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. My therapist suggested I write this as part of my recovery work, with no expectation of response. I was wrong. About everything. I lied to you, to Astrid, to my family. I prioritized my comfort over your dignity. I took your contributions for granted, emotional and financial. I blamed you for reacting to my actions instead of taking responsibility for those actions. You deserved honesty, respect, and partnership. I gave you none of those things. I'm sorry. Not because I want you back, or because I think sorry fixes anything. Just because you deserve to hear it. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found someone who treats you the way I should have. Troy." I'd read it twice. No excuses buried in the apology. No "but you also" deflections. No requests for forgiveness or reconciliation. Just accountability. I'd written back one sentence. "Thank you for saying that. I hope Denver treats you well." Then I'd deleted his email and moved on with my afternoon. Because here's what I'd learned in 3 months of reconstruction. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you give yourself. Troy's apology was nice. It changed nothing about my life except confirming that the work I'd done, the documentation, the boundaries, the walking away, had been exactly right. This morning, September 20th, I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment in the same building. Upgrade from the studio. Bigger kitchen, actual bedroom, rent of $950 that I could easily afford with my new salary. Still $200 less monthly than what I'd been paying at Troy's place. Moving day was October 1st. I'd also booked a flight to Italy for November. 2 weeks. Solo travel. Rome, Florence, Venice. The trip I'd suggested to Troy last year that he'd vetoed because Europe is overrated and expensive. Turned out Europe was neither when you weren't funding someone else's secret savings account. My phone buzzed. Text from Diane. "Troy told me he emailed you an apology. I didn't ask him to. Just want you to know that. Hope you're well. Me. I'm great. Really great. Tell him Denver's lucky to have him." Because I meant it. Not sarcastically. Troy was doing the work, facing consequences. Growing up at 31 because he'd finally run out of people willing to enable him. That was good. That was necessary. And it was no longer my problem or my concern. I finished my coffee, opened my laptop. The book proposal was due to agents next week. Chapter 1. The Day I Chose Myself was already written. Chapter 7. Why Documentation Saves Lives practically wrote itself. The conclusion was still being drafted, but it would be something about how the worst thing that happens to you can become the foundation for the best thing you build. My phone buzzed again. Marnie. Brunch Sunday? I have news. Me. Always. Magnolia Cafe? Marnie. Where else? 11 a.m. Bring your appetite. I'm buying mimosas to celebrate. I smiled. She'd somehow already heard about the book agents. That's what best friends do. I looked around my studio one last time. In 11 days I'd be packing again, moving down the hall to a bigger space. In 7 weeks I'd be in Italy. In 6 months, maybe holding a book contract. And Troy? Troy would be in Denver, starting over, learning lessons he should have learned a decade ago. The difference? I was moving forward. He was catching up. I closed my laptop, grabbed my keys. Thursday morning yoga class at Black Swan started in 30 minutes, and I'd promised myself I'd actually go this week instead of just paying for the membership. As I locked my door, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. 29 years old, single, thriving, free. Funny how the worst breakup of my life had led to the best version of myself. Turns out you don't need closure from the person who hurt you. You just need distance, documentation, and the confidence to know you made the right call. And maybe a really good PowerPoint presentation, because revenge isn't about destruction. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. It's about taking your half of the savings account and your whole sense of self-worth and walking away while they're busy pretending everything's fine. Troy got Denver and therapy and a junior analyst position. I got Italy and a book deal and the profound peace of knowing I'd never settle for safe again. Seemed like a fair trade to me.